How the girls all get prettier at closing time. How they all begin to look like movie stars. How the girls all get prettier at closing time. When the change starts taking place, it puts a globe on every face of the fallen angels, of the backstreet boys. Oh, oh, the fallen angels, of those backstreet boys.
Welcome back, folks. We are with Connie Hansen, Marceline, and we are going to continue Connie's secrets that she has to tell here. Connie, I'm going to go back here for just a minute, and something that I had missed, one question here, that wasn't Urban Cowboy, wasn't it based on actual people?
Yes, it was. Dew Westbrook, that's his real name, was Bud in real life, and he was married for a short period of time to Sissy.
Okay.
Her name was Betty in real life. So yes, it was definitely based on them, but it was it was kind of more of a lifestyle thing because it changed so much of leisure time in our country at the time. People were going out to dance halls, bars that had dance floors. They were learning line dancing. There was a popular song called the Cotton Eye Joe. They were learning that. Yeah. They were learning how to two-step. And people were going out during the week to some of these places to dance and so forth. So it was more of a lifestyle change for most people, because even though they went to work in an office building or they drove a truck, you know, or whatever their job was, they would get all dressed up in their cowboy clothes, that they didn't even own cowboy clothes before Urban Cowboy. You have to understand this. Mickey and Johnny started this thing with putting feather hat bands in their hats.
Right.
That wasn't a thing before Urban Cowboy.
That's right.
So the sales for those went way up.
Wow.
The sales for Stetson hats went way up. Larry Mahan boots, Tony Lamas, oh my goodness, Levi Strauss, Wrangler.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I mean, there wasn't even a Wrangler women's wear until Urban Cowboy. But
that's amazing.
It was a demand that the Wrangler folks realized, oh my goodness, yes, we're decking all these urban cowboys out in shirts and jeans and things like that, but what are the women wearing?
And they're recognizing that when the women are wearing these things, they're looking pretty good too.
Yeah, they're looking pretty sharp. So belts, boots, belt buckles.
Yes.
Hat pins were a big deal.
Wow.
I mean, hat pins everywhere in the felt hats. So the real cowboys would come and hang out, and then these urban cowboys would come and show up at these dance halls. So it was a shift. I'm telling you, I know you were a kid then, but it was such a profound shift that a lot of people were trying to get their bosses to let them wear jeans to work.
Oh, right. Now, again, I was young, and so this is very fascinating to me. So one thing that I do know, I've worked in the oil field for many years, and sometimes you have different people and different genres of people. You said that there was cowboys, real cowboys, that would come into Gilley's, and then the urban cowboys would come in. Was there any kind of a clash between the two?
You know, you're asking the wrong person about that. Because you have to understand, I never went to Gilley's, and I didn't go to bars or dance halls. I was cast in a part, and I was a Paramount actress. So I really didn't have any history or historical basis for knowing what they did or did not do among themselves. They looked to me like in the movie, a lot of the extras showed up, and they're all on the dance floor together.
They looked like they got along pretty well.
Right.
There was both
Right.
sides
Yeah.
doing the mechanical bull.
They
and
all
that
just
kind
had
of stuff.
fun.
They all had fun.
And there were people that came down from the hill country that were real cowboys,
wow.
like in Fredericksburg, that actually worked the land and had dairy farms and steers and out in the fields and things like that. And they would come to Gilley's and, dance. To be honest, it was really hard to tell the difference between a real cowboy and an urban cowboy.
That's so cool. That is so cool.
Remember what Deborah and Bud were. She wanted to know if he was a real
If
cowboy.
he was a real cowboy.
That was a big deal to her, and he was. He
Absolutely.
was from Spur, Texas.
Absolutely. The gentleman that wrote the Esquire article there, was there a correlation to anybody in particular of importance at that particular point?
Okay. There were a lot of interesting things. One was Aaron Latham was married, many, 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 many years until his recent passing, was married to Leslie Stahl, the 60 Minutes reporter
That's
on
right.
CBS.
Okay.
And then we had our director who directed some very large movies prior to Urban Cowboy, and his partner was Jack, who was Jimmy Olsen in the original Superman series of the 50s, the old black and white TV show. Okay.
George Reeves.
Yes, he
Yes,
was in. He
Reeves.
played Jimmy Olsen, the cub reporter.
I might be young, but I know some of that
Right.
stuff.
And then we had a lot of people from current TV shows of that period just fly into Houston and come and hang out on set with us. They weren't extras. They weren't seen on film or anything, but they came and just hung out because it was such a big deal at the time.
That is
The
really
word
cool.
spread that this urban cowboy was going to be the biggest thing that year.
The massive phenomena. So yeah, I still don't understand the situation with as it works, that this movie was actually based on real people, actual events, and yet it was still being compared to Empire Strikes Back. It just doesn't make sense to me. Science fiction. This thing here, this movie here, when you're talking how big it is, the Oscars were such a big thing back in those days as well. And was this nominated as one of the biggest movies?
It wasn't. Let me explain how this worked. It was released. Urban Cowboy was released in 1980, along with a lot of prominent other movies of that period. And they always give the Oscar the following year. So in 1981, that's when the Oscars came out. I think it was probably in March or something. Urban Cowboy was not nominated. There were a string of other, great movies and so forth. But anyway, my point being that I received my Oscar vote in the mail because we were members of Screen Actors Guild. All of the leading cast, I was one of the 7 of the leading cast, and we all were in Screen Actors Guild members. And we received our vote. We could go in person for the big rah-rah on the red carpet and all
Right.
that. Or we could just vote by mail. And I voted by mail, and so forth. But I think the main thing to express here is that if the Best Picture Oscar was given to the movie that was not only the best that year, but that had the longevity, the staying power for generations, decades into the future,
Absolutely.
then Urban Cowboy should have won.
That's right.
It should have been nominated and it should have won because if you ask someone anywhere that's a movie fan, what was Best Picture in 1981, they won't remember.
I can't tell you.
No, it was a good movie.
Yeah.
It was a drama, and it was kind of sad and all that kind of thing. But it did not have the staying power. The staying power to me means Gone with the Wind. Okay? Grease.
Wonderful movie.
Okay? Grease.
Absolutely.
Staying power, that generation after generation are still interested in seeing reruns. And Urban Cowboy is probably the most rerun movie of all time worldwide. So one of the things is that we found, our group of actors found, that the fans for at least 20 years had later had children, and those children now have discovered it, and they're grown children.
Right.
They're the age of what their parents were when Urban Cowboy was first released on the market. So now these 20, 30, and 40-year-olds have discovered Urban Cowboy all over again, because they say, oh my goodness, that was my mom's favorite movie, or my mom actually had a blind date and they went to Gillies, and that's how she met my dad, and that kind of thing.
That's awesome.
And it goes on. The culture is still making headway now.
That is just incredible. And to think that this was such a huge impact of not just the United States, but it impacted the world, because Wrangler, Lee, Stetson, boots of all kinds, everything ended up being bought up all over the world. So, okay, so let's take a step back here. Actually, let's go a step forward. We left off with you getting ready to go into this building.
Right.
What was that building that you were getting ready to go into, and what happened?
It was a multi-story office building in the Galleria, and it was the headquarters for Paramount Pictures. So anytime a movie is made in a specific town, the production company sets up an office. And so I walked into the building, and I expected, a few women to show up from the ad on the radio.
A dozen or 2 dozen?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
But there were at least 900 people there.
900?
At least.
Man.
Shoulder to shoulder in that building.
Incredible.
And there was no one to meet us at the door or anything. It was just a free-for-all. You would walk in, and you had your picture, remember?
Yeah.
You had to have your 8x10 headshot. And I walked in, and there was a big, folding table in the lobby of this building. And it was just covered with photos. So in other words, somebody like me would just walk in and go, and just throw their
Toss your picture on the table.
And the only sign that was on the wall was, put your name and phone number on the back of the photo. And mine had my name on the front because it was a professional photo.
Sure.
And I wrote my phone number on the back, and that was it.
Wow.
And I left.
You just walked out.
Yeah, well,
Well, that was one of the most amazing interviews that I've heard in quite a long time.
Yeah, there wasn't even an interview. It's just throw your picture on the table. You know what I mean? I mean, it's crazy.
Oh, that is crazy. So after you threw your picture out on the table,
right,
and you finished your interview,
yes,
what was in your mind when you walked out? Did you think, oh, I'm going to get this part, or what the heck was going on? I didn't even talk to anybody, or
to be honest, I thought I was being foolish. I really did. Because,
32?
Yeah, 32. I went against all the rules that they said, you had to be a certain age and stuff. And I really felt foolish. And I drove to my husband's office, and I
Did he even know that you were doing that?
No, very busy, very
Wow.
busy. But all the women in the office, that work for him, I had to tell them what I did. And of course, everybody just made fun of me and said, oh man, is that stupid or what,
Wow.
What did you think your chances were of getting to be an extra?
Speaking of the question, what did you think your chances were about getting that part?
0.
Well, 0. Well,
Zero.
as another movie once said,
0.
so you think there might be a chance.
No. I just thought it was 0. But that night, my husband came home. I never even mentioned it to him. I never said, this is what happened. This is how stupid I was. This is what I did. I didn't do any of that. I just, you have 4 kids. And
Yeah,
my
4
youngest
kids.
at that time, I think she was a year,
Wow.
probably a year old.
Mm.
So, you just do the mom thing. You cook the dinner and you
Yeah.
feed your kids and give them baths and get them ready for bed. So I didn't think anything about it until the next day. The next day, the phone rang.
What happened on that phone call?
The next day, the person on the phone said, "This is so-and-so. I'm with Paramount Pictures, and I need to talk to you about coming in for a casting call for you to audition for
So
the casting director."
you like, oh, that's great, that's awesome, and you hang up the phone and go do it, or
No,
what was your
but
thought?
I did hang up the phone.
You hung up the phone.
Okay, so what happened was I said, okay, who is this really? Who is this? Because the first thing in my head was somebody in my husband's office probably put a friend of theirs up to calling me and pretending to be Paramount.
To prank you.
And so I said, come
Okay.
on. And they were trying to convince me they were the real thing. And I go, that's ridiculous. I'm getting ready to hang up the phone now. And that person, that lady said, no, wait. Call me back. Here's the phone number and call me back and I'll answer, the phone and you'll know it's Paramount. And I said, that's ridiculous. You give me a number, I call that number and you answer the phone.
It can be anybody on the other end of the
Yeah,
phone.
it's still you.
Exactly.
It's still you.
Folks, the biggest
Yeah.
thing that you have an understanding of right now is that she's defying all odds at this particular point.
Exactly.
She's not 23. She's not 29. She's not even 30. She's 32. But man, I'm telling you what, she is sexy. And
Oh,
she is
my
gonna
goodness,
she's
now you're
gonna
embarrassing
get
me.
this part
No, you're
no matter
embarrassing.
what. But she's got to believe it, right? Okay.
Well,
So what happened?
Well, I said, that's ridiculous. And then she said, no, I'm going to give you the main number to Paramount,
Oh, another number.
which would be in California.
Okay.
And you call this number with the California area code and they'll pass it through somehow. Technology wasn't what it was then, what it is now.
Switchboard.
Right. And then the phone will ring and you'll know it's really Paramount. And I thought, okay, whatever.
All right.
And so I hung up and the phone immediately, was right there for me to make that call. And I just dialed it and wow, they answered the phone, Paramount Pictures,
And
with
you
that
were-
area code.
And you were shocked.
I was. I could not believe it. I really couldn't believe it.
How long did it take for you to tell your husband that the phone call that you received was you getting the part?
I didn't tell him that I was doing any of this.
Okay.
I just decided that, because I still may not get the part. All it was an audition.
Okay.
So that, in this business, there's a lot of,
Cutthroat.
it's just a lot of disappointment,
Okay.
So I thought, no, I'll keep a lid on this. And so I went in. The next day was totally, totally different.
You didn't just toss a picture out on the
No,
table.
actually,
Okay.
I walked in the building and they had an escort, a security person, to take me up in the elevator up to the floor where all the casting was going on.
Wow.
The director's office was up there. All the big wigs for Paramount, their offices were up there. And I was ushered in to Sherry Rhodes' office.
Okay.
And she was the casting director, California, big time. And she had an assistant, and her name was Patsy Bruce. Do you know who that is?
I don't know who Patsy Bruce is.
Okay. Patsy Bruce was from Nashville. And because of her music, she was a songwriter. And because of her music background in Nashville, she was part of maybe the music side
Okay.
of Urban Cowboy and getting all of the people that were, you have an Urban Cowboy album?
I do.
Okay.
Actually.
So if you look at all these
have it right
people that are in that urban, that was the biggest selling album of all time.
Biggest selling album of all time.
Of all time, the Urban Cowboy
Folks,
album.
here it is.
And if you will, read some of those names there.
You've got Jimmy Buffett, Charlie Daniels Band, Eagles, Dan Fogelberg, Mickey Gilley, Gilley's Urban Cowboy Band, Johnny Lee, Anne Murray, Bonnie Raitt,
Yeah.
Linda Ronstadt, and J.D. Souther,
Right.
Kenny Rogers,
Right.
Boz Scaggs, Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band, and Joe Walsh.
Biggest album
singers.
of all time. And so I think that they probably recruited Patsy. I'm guessing about that part.
Okay.
But Patsy was a real hardcore audition judge, if you will.
Okay.
I mean, she wasn't friendly and outgoing with me. She was very, straightforward and insistent on digging and more, digging more out of me.
She wanted the best of the best.
Yes, she did.
Okay.
She was really, really good at that. But she was married to Ed Bruce.
Okay.
And she and Ed wrote Mamas Don't Let Your Babies Grow Up to Be Cowboys.
Great
Which
song.
is a huge, still went platinum song, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So she wanted to know, when she said her name was Patsy Bruce, I said, oh my goodness, she must be married to Ed. What do you know about that? Very suspicious. What do you know about that? I said, well, I have a little bit of experience in terms of being to Nashville and trying to get a record deal and all that kind of thing. So I know a little bit about Nashville. What do you know about it? Well, just what I said. I've been trying to get a record deal because now this is how simple-minded I can be. I had 4 kids. I had always been a singer, but I was a Broadway singer. I did Broadway musicals. Okay. All professional, Actors Equity, professional stuff. Okay. But I was a singer more than an actress. I had done some acting roles on stage, but I really categorized myself as a singer. And so I wanted to get a deal where I could stay home and be a mom.
Right.
And I thought in my mind, I had no idea what it would take to be a country music artist and star. I thought, okay, how cool would this be? I go in the studio and I record music and they make an album. An album was a black record about this big.
No, I remember those.
Remember those?
I'm young, but I remember those, yes.
And that I could stay home and take care of raising my children. I wouldn't have to go on the road or anything. It would be so handy and convenient. And I could be this country music artist like Tammy Wynette.
Perfect scenario.
Yeah, perfect. That was my idea. So I went to Nashville. I said, this is what I want to do. I want a record career. And they go, and who are you? I was a nobody.
Right.
And so I knew a little bit about how the music industry worked at that time in Music City.
Okay.
And so Patsy wanted to know if I was lying or not. So she said, well, do you toss out a name of somebody that that's not a singer celebrity, but somebody who's actually either a producer or works for a label or something like that. And I said, well, let's see. I had a recent meeting with Bob Montgomery. And she goes, really? And I go, yeah. And Bob Montgomery produced several acts. Charlie Rich, Behind Closed Doors, was Bob's claim to fame. And I said, oh, well, he goes by the nickname of Bear. And she said, you're in. You know what you're talking about. Only a handful of people at that time knew that Bob went by the nickname of Bear. That's what he was called. And only an insider would know that.
That is an incredible, incredible story. That's awesome. One last thing before we go. I noticed that you have some, as we would call, memorabilia here. If you'd like to show your fans here what you have on this counter.
Okay. This is what I wore in Urban Cowboy.
The exact same ones?
Every day. Yes, the exact ones. You
Wow.
can see the faded patch at the back. And I know you probably can't tell
Where's
how tiny
the rest of it?
they're like so tiny. They're unbelievably tiny, but you can tell how old they are because they're, literally falling apart. But this is what I wore every day on the set.
Wow.
The same pair of jean shorts.
That is
And
really
then
cool.
I had two different tops. One was a baby blue, and I don't know what happened to it, but one was a baby blue, and I think I had it on when I was inside Gillies at the bar folding Gillies shirts. And I think I had it on maybe one other place. I can't recall where, but it was baby blue. This one is the peach version, and you can see that this is a large, even though it doesn't look very large, but this is a large. And it's got Gillies on the front
Wow.
and the back. Most people didn't know that it came on the front and the back. And they're not on the Gillies website, and evidently they're not making them anymore. So here's the thing. Clay and I have discussed this a little bit. If you all comment below that you have an interest in owning or wearing a Gillies shirt like this that I wore in the movie, we're talking about maybe the possibility of having one instead of having it say Gillies, because there might be some kind of copyright thing, who knows. But have Marshalline, my character name, on it instead. The same style with all the lace trim and stretchy, different sizes and stuff and colors, basically peach or baby blue. Please comment if that would be something you'd be interested in.
Yes, yeah. So her fans, please comment. Put your ideas, put your thoughts in the comments below, and I'd like to talk to the guys. So if you want to set your ladies aside. So years ago, okay, so back when I was a kid, when this was all coming out, back when I was a kid, I had a Farrah Fawcett t-shirt. Now, I know, you can laugh all you want. I wore that almost every day until it fell off. So Farrah Fawcett, and I'm telling you what, Marshalline, Connie Hansen, in my respect, and no disrespect, is so much better looking than Farrah Fawcett ever was.
Oh my goodness.
So what my thought was,
Not true,
is with this whole entire situation here, is you guys, if you want one of these shirts, please don't wear it. If you want one of these shirts to maybe put it in a picture frame, put it up on your wall in your den, but it not say Gillies, I had one with Farrah Fawcett's picture on it. Connie actually has 2 or 3 glamour shots that we can actually put on the shirts. We can screen print on these shirts. And I think that it would be an amazing situation if she would have it signed and you put it into a picture frame and hang it up on your wall. This not only dates back to her childhood or her teenage, if you will, her 32 area, but this dates back into the early 80s, which is memorabilia, and it really puts it into a quote unquote, as you talk about cars, a classic mode. So I think that this would be a great addition to any man's den, man cave up on the wall. So if any of these guys that are watching this, if you're interested in any of this, please put your thoughts in the comments below, and we'll get to that particular part of it. And if there's enough interest, then we'll make sure that we take care of this situation here. What do you think?
I think it's a nice idea. I'd also like to add that I know there are a lot of people, because they've commented on the internet as couples, that they actually dress up when they watch the Urban Cowboy movie.
Oh, wow.
So even if you just wanted to wear something from Urban Cowboy, like the t-shirt that says Marshalline, just in your own home when you're watching the movie together.
Right.
That would be fun. Or it might be a fun gift for a man to give his girlfriend, sweetheart, or wife
Yep.
for when they go out dancing. And it would definitely be something I would think that would cause a conversation.
Absolutely.
You know, somebody might say, oh, Marceline was my favorite character in Urban Cowboy, or, oh no, I like Sissy much better. It's okay. It starts the conversation.
Marceline.
But I think it might be something that you might like to have. So just let us know before we make our decision.
Absolutely. Or it might not even be you. Maybe you know some really, really big fans of Urban Cowboy or Marceline or whoever, and you just want to give them to them as a gift. And we just leave those in the comments below, and we'll take a look at those. And if there's enough interest, then we'll make sure that we make this happen. We're going to take another break right here. Folks, if you like this video, hit like. And if you want to see more of Connie's secrets being revealed, smash that subscribe button, and we'll be right back.
Yeah.